Hi everyone, this is Matthew Cruz at Comstock Investments, and I'll be sharing with you the October 2020 USDA Supply Demand Report that came out this morning at 11 a.m. The big news for today was a lot of the adjustments made in harvested acres. Both harvested acres were down for corn by 1 million, and that's where we saw our biggest adjustment for the day. The production came in at 14.722 billion bushels, which was pretty close to what the average trade estimate was at. They readjusted the yield to 178.4, pretty close to what the average was at 177.7, so well within that trade range. But the harvested acres came in at 82.5, and so that was right at the bottom of the range in the corn. Kind of similar situation in the beans, but the harvested acres came in at 82.3, which was outside or just below the bottom end of the range for the soybeans. And so that's why we see a lot of the strong upward movement in the prices today in the beans. You can see the yield was pretty close to what the average trade was at 51.5, and they adjusted that to 51.9. The production came in at 4.268 billion bushels, and so very close to what the average trade guess was at 4.271 billion bushels. So what this does to our ending stocks, that readjusts our ending stocks for corn to 2.167, and the average trade estimate was at 2.102. So relatively close to that, a little bit higher, but well within that average trade range guess. The soybeans is what had the biggest change today, with those change in acres brought that ending stocks down to 290 million bushels. And so we're starting to get to the point where we're bringing down ending stocks to a pretty low number, and so I think we'll see that reflective in today's prices. So the average trade guess was looking at 352, and so we're quite about 60 million bushels below that. And in wheat, the average trade guess was pretty close. They readjusted that to 883 million bushels compared to the average estimate of 887 million bushels. Looking around the world at supply, Brazil soybeans are pegged at 133 million metric tons. Comparing that to last year, 126, and so most of that increase you're seeing from increased acres. They're looking at increasing acres by about 6%. Similar situation in the corn. That's pegged at 110 compared to last year's production that came in at 102. Argentina soybeans, 53.5 million metric tons compared to last year's production of 49, and then corn. Argentine corn came at 50 million metric tons compared to last year, 51. So not much change looking at global ending stocks. And when we look at corn, the actual number came in at 300.5 million metric tons. So very close to what the average trade was looking for. It did push the soybeans down to a little bit lower levels. The average trade was looking at 91.1, and soybeans came in at 88.7. Wheat was actually increased at 316.6. The average was looking at 310.9. So looking at the corn balance sheet gives you a little bit better perspective here. You can see that harvested acres were dropped in the corn by 1 million. And so that's where we see where most of our change came in production. And yield, they dropped that. Yield estimate, they dropped that by just 1/10 of a bushel. And so you can see the beginning stocks from the September stock report, the difference there at 258 million, and then the production, which came from the drop in harvested acres, that losing 178 million bushels, and so down by those together, down by 436 million bushels. However, we gained back a little bit by they reduced the feed and residual of 50 million, and ethanol domestic consumption by 100 million, you can see here. So overall, we reduced the ending stocks at 336 million. So we're ended up at this 2.167 billion bushel level. So historically, in the last few years anyway, that's not been too high, but we'd like to see that stay below 2 billion bushels if possible. Somewhat similar situation in the soybeans. You can see here they reduced soybean acres by 700,000 acres, and they left the yield unchanged. Yield estimate 51.9, and so we see a reduction here, 45 million bushels from those harvested acres. They increased exports by 75 million bushels, so they're saying, I'm assuming a lot of that's going towards China. Overall, we see ending stocks drop by 170 million bushels, and so that drops us down to this 290 million bushels. So we're getting to the point where our they typically need to keep the soybean inventories at 200 million bushels. Otherwise, we're going to have to start importing a lot of soybeans into the United States. And so the fact that we're starting to get down to that area, is a very good signal for prices. And so we should see that in today's ending prices. Taking a quick look at wheat, we can see that they decreased the yield by 0.4 of a bushel from this 50.1 to 49.7. They left the harvested acres unchanged, and so that dropped production by 12 million bushels. They did increase the feed and residual by 10 million bushels, and so overall we're looking at ending stocks at 42 million bushels lower at this 883. And so the last couple of years we've been fluctuating around the 1 to 1.1 billion bushels, and so this is good news for prices, that we're seeing this steadily and slowly drop, and so we're down to this 883 million bushels in wheat. Taking a quick look here and what prices have done today. This is not quite the close, but you can see the prices here have been up about 7-8 cents today. They were trading higher at one point, reaching about 3.98, 3.99. So we're knocking on the door of $4, at least in the December corn. And so so far this upward trend is continuing to maintain its integrity. And similar situation, we traded higher once the report came out about this 1079 area in November beans. We've pulled back here now, and so we've been trading right now at yesterday's high at this 1069. And so the wheat did not respond well today, but they've had a pretty good run so far. They had a very, very poor day yesterday, as you can see, but they've had a pretty wide trading range, but we'll have to see how they close today. But right now the market looks pretty indecisive, and so they're trading right at this 594. And so we want to see the next resistance level that we want to break above is around this 617 area that they've set here in wheat yesterday. But we're seeing a lot of sellers come in at that point, and so we need to stay above this 590 area to maintain the upward momentum here in the wheat. So if you're a bull, you're going to point out the derecho weather events. You're going to talk about the dry weather damage that we've seen in Iowa. Point out the September grain ending stocks and how that's really changed a lot of the outlook here quite a bit. We shaved off nearly 300 million bushels in just from the readjustments in that grain ending stocks report. You talk about the economic recovery is been coming along a lot faster and better than a lot of people foresaw. You can also talk about how China has been buying a lot. But it's still kind of up in the air if they're going to actually make good on what the phase 1 agreement is going to be. And so if you're a bear, of course, we have election going on right now, and that creates a lot of uncertainty. A lot of people still concerned about the coronavirus and reading a lot about there being second waves in other countries like Europe. And and then China not being able to fulfill the phase one agreement, I think is a big issue. So where China comes in, they're going to have a major impact on where we see prices going here in the immediate future. Um, I would point out the durational damage. Some people want to. I've seen some reports where they're arguing that the durational damage has been overdone, and a lot of people going out and harvesting. Um, one report that someone was harvesting a field that had been zeroed out by insurance, and they went out and harvested and got 160. That was probably below their APH, but there's still a lot of corn out there. Even though the field probably doesn't look very good. So that's the report for today. Thank you. As always, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us. Give us a call at 712-227-1110. Thank you and have a nice day.